What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 19. My name is Zach Graham, your host here on the North End Podcast, joined, as always, by my good buddy, on record as my best friend. It's Ian Michaud, a.k.a. E, a.k.a. Leigh James, a.k.a. Sebastian Driussi, a.k.a. Estradamus, a.k.a. Pap E. Oh, Daniel E. Sitting here on another Wednesday afternoon. United States is into the group stage. We have officially a new Austin FC player. We talked about him a little bit last week. But first, how are you feeling?
I'm all right. Today is Spotify Wrapped Day, which is one of my favorite days of the year. Get to learn a lot about people through their Spotify Wrapped. You know my buddy Val, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You guys on record as best friends. His top three: Kanye.
Okay.
Nickelback. T-Swift.
Really?
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Val.
Yeah. The guy's he's a weirdo. But so I saw that. That was a nice little thing to start the day off. But then also, give and take in life. The Backwoods pack that I bought yesterday to bring over to your place was unequivocally the worst pack of woods I have ever purchased in my entire life. I got one. The only good roll I got was the one that we had at your place.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, 0 for 4 on the last 4.
I was gonna say, I guess you made a trip to the corner store, the Walgreens, or whatever this morning to remedy that. Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't yet. So yeah,
we've got an irritated E here today.
Quite a bummer. But yeah, maybe I'll have to call them again, see what I can. One time I called Backwoods and was like, "Hey man,
this is bullshit.
You got to stop having so many holes in these cigars, man." Like, and they're like, well, are you unrolling them? And I'm like, yeah, who fucking just smokes a regular backwood? Like, I'm not a fucking lunatic. And they're like, well, we can't do anything if you unroll them, but we'll send you a buy one, get one free card. So I had this like golden backwoods ticket. It was this big. I mean,
who accepts those?
The 7-Elevens.
Really?
I had it for like a fucking year, dude. And I was finally just like, I'm going to see if this works. Because it was like beautiful. It's like backwoods and it's like gold. It's like one of those like fucking.
It's like a Willy Wonka backwoods ticket.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, like, do you take this? And they're like, and I was like, all right, well, give me 2.
Backwoods just generating currency. That's pretty crazy.
Backwoods bucks are big.
Well, shout out to Val, one of the most hospitable gentlemen that I have met in the recent past. Got to hang out with Val a little bit this past summer when we were up in your neck of the woods at upstate New York. Little summer trip, charity game. So maybe we'll talk about that on the pod when we get closer to the summer, because I imagine we'll be back up there hooping again. But we're here. Appreciate anybody who gets through our intros sometimes when we divert onto very personal topics. We'll talk some Austin FC. Like I said, we'll talk World Cup. We'll talk other MLS news, and maybe, just maybe, talk a little hoops at the end. We'll see how we're doing on time once we get there. We talked about Alfonso Ocampo-Chavez last week, the Seattle youth player who we had taken in the end of the year waivers process. Correct. He was officially signed.
Yes.
I believe yesterday on Tuesday before the US match, I think is when the team tweeted that. It may have been Monday night, but regardless, Ocampo-Chavez. And I did see people in the Los Verdes Slack bandying about the AOC nickname as we did last week. And dude, what you said was, no, we are not doing that.
Yeah, no, no.
So it's a 1-year guaranteed deal for Ocampo-Chavez there. But we have team options I should say Austin FC has team options. I can say we on this podcast, right? Like we're all those kind of fans.
We're part of the team.
What about the wristbands?
They gonna put you in the game.
So team options 2024, 2025. So I mean the idea that we can have this guy for 3 potential seasons if he continues to improve, and again a very nice season for him at the next pro level again was with Tacoma Defiance last year. That's Seattle's next pro team. 23 appearances, 9 goals, 4 assists. Again, has represented the U.S. At the U14, 15, and 17 levels in the U17 World Cup in 2019. And one thing that we did learn from the press release, outside of just the length of the contract, is that he will have a homegrown designation on the roster. And so I thought that was a good opportunity to go into our MLS salary cap rules training camp for the week.
Salary cap 101.
Yeah, so homegrown, the homegrown initiative, or the homegrown player rule, I think is the official title of it. This allows MLS teams, and I apologize if anybody already, knows this or has been educated by other, sharper podcasts or outlets out there. It allows MLS teams to sign local players from their own development academies directly to the MLS first team roster. This rule was created in 2008. And before that rule was created, every player entering MLS would have to be assigned through one of the existing processes, like the super draft, right? So there was like it had to go through one of those things. You couldn't just sign the young player, I guess, from your academy directly to the first team. And so now with this homegrown rule, it allows a team to sign players to contracts similar to the Generation Adidas contracts, which is what the top players, I think the top 5, maybe 10 in the super draft are signed to. So Danny Pereira, Kim Keller, Generation Adidas contracts, they don't count to the salary cap, and similar to DPs, they can earn a higher salary than that minimum. So I guess similar structure, but obviously, you're not paying a Generation Adidas player $1.5 million or whatever your actual DPs get.
Correct.
So MLS, homegrown players, again, will not count against the salary budget. But they have to be in a supplemental roster spot again, 10 senior spots or 20 senior spots, 10 supplemental spots to not count against the cap. They have to be using those supplemental spots to place a player on a homegrown list, making that player eligible to sign as a homegrown player. The players must have resided in that club's home territory and participated in the club's youth development system for at least 1 year. Okay. As well as meeting other unspecified league requirements. So thanks, MLS. That's the description I have here in front of me.
Unspecified requirements.
If a player on a team's homegrown list goes to college or U17, U20, or U23 U.S. men's national soccer teams, he remains eligible to sign as a homegrown player at any time, as long as he is registered with the club as a homegrown player first. And I guess to kind of close out this, what I think is still a fairly complicated and not super clear explanation. Players retain their homegrown status up to a certain age. I believe that's 23 years old. It may be 25. Okay. It's not explicitly stated here. But even if they're traded. And so I believe clubs can trade the homegrown rights with a player.
So is that what happened with him here?
That I'm not sure, because again, it was the waiver process. End of year waivers, how we got him. There wasn't actually a trade there, but it says in the press release, Austin officially claimed him off the waivers list on November 17th. And it says, meaning that Ocampo-Chavez retains his MLS homegrown designation. But see, what I have a question about still, again, as not doing a good job, I guess, educating anybody who didn't know about this. If there's no trade, he retains his homegrown rights. but like, so he has homegrown rights and Austin also has them, or Seattle still has them. That's where I'm still unclear. So maybe we'll find something as we go along here and clear that up. But I think just the most important thing about this designation is that Austin FC is saying he has a homegrown designation, which does benefit both the club and the player.
Indeed.
So again, I think as you like to say, still seems like good business.
I think it does. He falls into the category of forgive me, his name Jeffel?
Sofian Jeffel.
Jeffel.
I believe Jeffel. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna roll with Jeffel. I think he fits in that same little category here where we're getting some younger prospects, some guys that we can actually build, working to the rotation, get ready for this longer season. So I like it. And like you said last week, maybe he was one of those teenagers who beat our ass last year.
Yeah, well, so I confirmed that he wasn't, but the fact that that was the first thing I did when I saw that we claimed him. I was like, is he one of those guys? And yeah, it was not. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because I feel like maybe we would want one of those guys that already showed that he could beat at least first year Austin FC. But the fact that Austin went out, targeted this player, got him signed, boom, done, 2 weeks, he's here. I think it's just a strong indication that, again, the club has confidence in these pickups they're making, these two young guys especially. And it's filling out, again, like we talked about last time, we have this entire next pro roster to fill. We want our depth to continue to improve year over year, and I think that is due, at least on paper, we're accomplishing that with these early signings. And again, and similar to Jeffel, right, where the DC fans didn't seem too happy on Twitter to be losing him, Seattle doesn't seem to be thrilled that we scooped him up either. So before we leave the signing section here in the homegrown section, just a couple I think fun stats about the both Austin's homegrowns and the homegrown process in general. Ocampo-Chavez is going to join Owen Wolf and Damian Loss as the only 3 homegrown players that have signed with the team.
Okay.
DeAndre Yedlin, who was with Seattle at the time, now with Inter Miami, and the U.S. men's national team over there in Qatar. He was the first MLS homegrown player to compete in a World Cup back in 2014. So there's some fun topical info for you there. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention here was, as I scroll to it, I've got a table here that shows the leading homegrown goal scorer by season in the MLS. And so appearing on this list in 2013, the Uruguayan player from New England, Diego Fagundes. 13 goals in his age 18 season. Then 2015, Diego Fagundes again, 6 goals when he was 20. And then another note here, and a good segue into our next topic, 4-time homegrown MLS goal scorer, leader by season, Gyasi Zardes. 2014, 14 goals when he was 23 with the Galaxy, and then 3 straight years with the Columbus Crew. And again, kept his homegrown rights, or maybe they're just saying because he was once a homegrown player. But on this list, 2018, 19, and 20, Zardes, 19, 13, and 12 goals. So, one Austin FC player on this list, and another potential future. And I still say potential. I think both of us last Wednesday would have assumed we saw the smoke on Gyasi Zardes by now. So I think maybe just like a quick update or like our thoughts, like how do you feel about the potential of a Zardes signing now, and not the on the field stuff, but like, do you think this is more or less likely to happen or the same now that we're a week away from when we thought this was a done deal?
I'm really not that sure, honestly, because just in this last 10 days here, or 14 days, we've seen the Artur rumor be wrong.
True.
This Messi rumor comes out. That's not done.
True.
This comes out. It's not done. So I'm not really sure my confidence level right now. If I had to speculate, I would say that it's probably about the same as when we first caught wind of Driussi coming down here to the 512. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is here. But like we said, there's so many moving parts with this. Obviously Messi's in the cup right now, but Zardes not. So,
right.
Large.
But Claudio is probably pretty wrapped up with.
I would imagine. Yeah. So
not that should preclude him from his Austin work, but
yeah,
it could slow things down. I don't know.
It's kind of a big event. Yeah, I would say that I still think it's going to happen. I'm confident that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you still. And if this was coming from anybody else but we are Austin TV, like they've been on top of it the last like 6 to 10 months. Like they've been getting some legit rumors. They broke the Rigoni news first.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. It seemed like they were very, very confident this time last week. And we haven't heard them backtrack at all. So hopefully next time we're recording, we're actually talking about Driussi, Zardes in Verde and Black. Excuse me. So another rumor, right? The Driussi rumor. All quiet, luckily, on that front. Or maybe luckily, I don't know. Like, would you rather be hearing things or not?
I think I would just like to hear that he's staying.
That's yeah, like the only thing you want to hear about it, right?
Glad to see no Instagram posts of him watching shit. That's for sure. It has been nice to watch Tyler Adams, who is at Leeds, and be like, hey, why can't we bring him to Austin? Vice versa. Pull the old switch around on these fuckers. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to wait and see with all of these little rumors that are swirling around right now. We've taken care of Jeffel and his name is escaping me. Campos. You got me all fucked up with the AOC shit now.
I mean, you can just call him that. You can remember that. Alfonso Ocampo-Chavez.
Alfonso Ocampo-Chavez. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know, man. We're just going to have to wait and see. It's clearly going to be an interesting, I think probably should pick up after the cup is done. Probably be kind of hot.
I think everything will, right?
Yeah, kind of fast and furious there. So we'll see.
We also got news, or maybe I think this was probably already out there, but I saw somebody confirm it on Twitter. December 15th, the expected schedule release for the 23 MLS season. So that's 2 weeks away. We've got a lot going on here. The World Cup. Got some birthdays coming up, I said we got some birthdays coming up too.
Oh yeah,
on the pod. So
birthday.
Yeah, it's a busy time. So we're looking forward to the schedule release for sure. Really, the only notable MLS move, and maybe somebody would correct me if there was a signing that I missed for their small team out there. But really, the big thing that I saw, Alistair Johnson, excuse me, the CF Montreal player. He's 24 years old.
Yep.
Very nice season with Montreal. And obviously Montreal was fantastic. One of the top teams in the league. He had 4 goals, 4 assists. Being transferred to Celtic, which is kind of topical for, the game we were watching yesterday with our boy Cameron Carter-Vickers, who we'll talk about here in a minute. Going to be his new teammate there at Celtic. So Alistair Johnson, 77 MLS appearances with Montreal and Nashville, originally a Nashville player. And apparently other European clubs were interested. He's currently at the World Cup with Canada, so coming home after this week. But 31 caps with Canada, 24 years old. Like it just seems like it's another, it's another good bit of news for the league where you're selling players to more high-profile teams and leagues. So again, we like to touch on the MLS news here in the offseason, and that was kind of the big thing this week. So again, slow news week, but I think it's good for the league, and congrats to him.
Absolutely. Well deserved. He's a good player.
Yeah, we remember him, right, from the Montreal, and just watching them in general there on the left. I guess we can just move into the goals bracket then. Really, really quick news dump this week, for lack of a better term. Let's talk about the bracket, which wrapped up on Tuesday morning. We have a champion.
Woo!
The 2022 Austin FC goal of the year goes to Musa Jite. His third goal in the RSL match in the 80th minute, wins the bracket.
Wow.
And I see you making a face.
Wow.
So I guess that's what I'll ask you first, because we actually haven't really discussed this between us since it finished. How do you feel about that goal winning? Because it looks like you have thoughts.
I was just surprised that he won that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a pretty solid debate that the second goal of that game was better.
Or the first.
Yeah.
All three were pretty darn good.
I mean, also, I kind of just instantly chalked it up that Seba was going to win the whole thing. It was more surprising to see that there was only one Seba in the Final Four there.
Right. Which was there couldn't be less than one.
Exactly. Yeah, there had to be one. I'm shout out to everyone who voted and had their voice heard. I obviously not on Twitter, so I had to sit this Democratic vote out.
You got the updates from me through text.
That's right.
I send you some carrier pigeons.
Facts.
So, yeah, I mean, like you said, shout out to everybody who participated. One thing I don't even know if I mentioned this to you over the weekend. In the Final Four, we actually had a tie on the other side of the bracket. The Driussi region champion, which was the goal against Dallas in the quarterfinals, the game winner there in the playoffs, and Danny Hosen's game tying goal against SKC at home, the volley from Felipe in the 85th minute. Those tied, even amount of votes. And so we didn't have any sort of process in place for a tie. We didn't think that was going to happen, and maybe we should have, but that's not how we do it.
Next year.
So on the fly, I think we have two very good tie-breaking processes here that we came up with on Twitter. The people helped me. I opened it up to the masses, and so I'll shout out specifically Brian chimed in, JJ Verde, PJ, Johnny B, and the False Nine Chickens.
Ooh.
So we had multiple calls for aggregate vote percentage from the previous 4 rounds, like whichever goal had more shares of their potential 400% of the vote would go through. And then I believe it was JJ who said, throw it to the chickens. Let them choose. Okay. And the False Nine themselves chimed in and said, yeah, we can do that. And so let me pull up the results here, because we did do the math. And where is it here? The total. Again, this is just riveting audio here, but I wanted to find what the total was. I may not be able to. I think it was 314% for Danny Hosen. Here I have the bracket right here, so I can do some quick maths. Yeah, Danny Hosen 314% took it down, 289 for that Driussi goal. And so that side of the I guess the people who wanted the aggregate vote share to determine it, they got Danny Hosen. And then the chickens, right? False Nine. Let me pull this up here as well. False Nine chimed back in after they said they could do it. They went to the coop. They very scientifically set up 2 screens for the chickens. Each goal on a loop, 1 screen each. And the chickens went over to the screen with the Hosen goal and tapped it. So Hosen through to the finals. So appreciate the people who chimed in there. We appreciate the chickens for their infinite wisdom. And so that is how Danny Hosen's goal got into the final. And I'll shout out PJ again on Twitter, who in the first round said that the Hosen goal was going to win it. So even though it didn't quite come out on top, I mean, the fact that it got through to the final, pretty good call there by our buddy PJ, who did also say that he had a ton of fun voting on the process. And, we appreciate him for participating. Makes it all that more fun for us. And I think the only thing I had written down to touch on was the surprise that there was only one Driussi goal in the final. I also thought that there was going to be two, but not to be. And I think, again, that was the fun of this. The way we see all the goals is not the same way that everybody else sees the goals or experience them or thinks back on them. I think it was Barely Regal on Twitter, I think, who sits frequently in the North End near us. He chimed in and he was like, am I the only person who watches these clips multiple times and gets goosebumps, even though I know exactly what's going to happen?
Yeah, right.
And so I can say, no, you're not the only one. And I know there was multiple people who also responded like, no, that's pretty much all of us. So yeah, goals bracket wrapped up. We'll have some more fun, silly type stuff like that coming up. Maybe not, certainly not so lengthy, and maybe not, open up to the people. Maybe just you and I doing some drafts or some ranks of different things. We'll see what we come up with going forward. Let's jump into the World Cup talk here. We got some actual soccer talk here. And the last time we had a chat, we were coming off the draw against Wales, both disappointed, but optimistic about, what was to come. I think both of us said we were going to go through. And if we've been living under a rock, we can report the United States did go through. But it was not smooth. I won't call it smooth. So let's talk a little bit about the England game first. I guess what I'll say, just to kick it off, Ian, and then I want to hear your thoughts on the England match. Because we didn't watch that first Wales match together. We did take in the final two together. I felt like in the England match, we were the better team for at least 70 minutes of that match. And I felt like it was a little bit of a disappointing draw. Like, we played well, but I thought we could have won that match.
I thought we could have won that game for sure. But it was a tough task, and it would have been a huge win to get that win. And even though I feel like we played better, we weren't really creating a lot of solid chances to get goals. So even though we looked very crisp, so especially defensively, we have quite the defensive back line there.
Yeah.
And obviously Matthew in the goal, one of the best shot savers in the world right now. So, I feel good about the prospects of this team. And I feel like that's where we're looking our best is defensively, especially with Tyler Adams running around. And yeah, I predicted a draw in that game. Yes.
I think you said 1-1, right?
I think I said
2-2.
1-1, and then we would beat Iran and go through.
Yeah, that's right. And I predicted a lot. I think 2-1 loss to England, and then I think I said 1-0 against Iran. I think that's what I said. I'll have to go back because
we can. It's on tape. I think we played really well versus them, and we clearly showed that we deserved to be on the field with them, and that the first 45 minutes versus Wales was not a fluke.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I could have put it better. Man, now I really have to go back and look if I got the Iran score right, because I want to be Zstradamus for one day.
No, you don't. It's a blessing and a curse.
So I think what you said about the feeling about us not being very threatening, that came out in our favorite stat, XG. England 0.77, USA 0.63. So I think that the 0-0 score line is probably pretty accurate. Either team could have snuck one by.
Yeah.
But again, I felt like we were the better team. Our fan base certainly felt a lot better about the result than the England fans did. And I think for good reason, they're expected to win the group and take care of business there. And it's probably pretty frustrating because, not only can they historically not beat us on the battlefield, but on the pitch as well. England never beaten the United States at the World Cup still.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So,
wow.
It's a fun stat as a team that doesn't have a ton to stand on in the world stage.
True.
True. So let's talk about Iran, which was a much more fun game, a much more tense game by the end. I saw multiple people saying, they were checking their Fitbit or Apple Watch or whatever and looking at their heart rate for the last, half hour of that match. And it was like they were, more than a light jog, some people's heart rates, I think.
Yeah.
They did, obviously we did get the win 1-0, the Pulisic goal. But let's also talk about the injury because Pulisic goes down on the goal. Really, I mean, a lot of people said sacrificed his body for the team, for the country, etc. That's one way to put it. He definitely laid his body out there on the line and took a knock.
You can say that.
And was down for minutes and then was not walking while coming back towards the bench. I thought, just to say it, I thought he got hit square in the nuts. And I thought that was the injury. Apparently it's not.
No.
I think they said pelvic contusion or quad contusion or like somewhere in between. He did come back on for 3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah, just
end the half. I think there was 5 minutes of extra time, I think, in the first half. So he played that last 5-6 minutes, whatever it was. And the more he moved around, the more it looked like he was not feeling good, not 100%, but it seemed like he loosened up a little bit. And especially on the run that the U.S. had in the 45th minute where they went 3-on-2, I believe it was Sargent in the middle, Weah overlapping him on the right, and Pulisic following the play on the left, and he was wide ass open.
Yeah.
And that was one of the only disappointments I had in this match was that Sargent didn't lay that ball off to Pulisic because I thought it was a brace and I thought the game, if they go up 2 on our end, that game was over.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought he was going to play the second half the way he was moving at the end of the first there.
I agree.
And I was kind of surprised to see him off, but then it made sense. I don't know. I heard abdominal. And when I first saw it, we watched it together. I thought he just took a really bad Charlie horse.
Right.
But do we have an official? Is he on an injury report somewhere?
So I was just looking up injury updates. I think from everything I have seen, he's listed as day-to-day. They officially called it a pelvic contusion, although I also saw abdominal in some places, I think yesterday.
Yeah, I saw abdominal.
He, I believe, put a Snapchat out or something, said he was going to be ready for the next game. We know that doesn't mean much, like the trainers will make that decision, but it seems to be that, okay, well, here you go. 38 minutes ago, and we are sitting right now, again, it's Wednesday afternoon, the late games, the Group C third match days here, which is Poland and Argentina, Saudi Arabia, and Mexico. They are kicking off literally right now. So a half hour ago on the pregame show, Jenny Taft updated on the Fox pregame show. Pulisic plans to be available when the United States faces the Netherlands on Saturday.
Sweet.
So again, and I think you and I both said yesterday, if we don't have him, we're screwed.
Wow.
And maybe screwed is too strong of a term, but when you have your best player out in a knockout style game and you're not the favorite, you're in a bad way.
Yeah, we would be in terrible shape if he didn't play. I mean, as long as he doesn't take corners, he's been
oh my God.
Absolutely.
He went right back to being shitty.
Yeah, the corners are baffling. But yeah, other than that, he's been out of this world. He's been great for us. He's got the assist and goal that, he's got the 2 contributions. So yeah, I really hope we have him. If we don't have him, that's going to be a tall task for, trying to get what would be our second ever.
Yeah, our second ever win in the round of 16, right? In that other one, which we were looking at yesterday. Again, we are not soccer historians. We can't harken back 20 years and tell you who, the final 8 of 2002 were off the top of our head. Like we could probably do with like the NBA playoffs or Super Bowls going back 30 years. Like, I don't know. We would do better at that, to be sure. We were looking up that roster yesterday. So again, more fun facts that relate to Austin FC on that 0-2 team. And I'm sure 90% of people listening to this know this already, but we thought it was cool. Claudio Reyna, Josh Wolf, both on that team in the 2-0 win over Mexico in the round of 16 back in 2002. So hoping for some more magic here on Saturday. The game's going to be 9 a.m. Central Time. So it's an early one. And I think this could top. I've always said the drunkest I've ever been at 10 a.m. in my life was USA versus Portugal 2014.
That's right.
That game was, I believe, at 10, maybe 11. This one is at 9, so I'm going to go break the record here on Saturday, and I hope you will join me. We'll see.
Breaking the record?
We'll see. That's my plan.
Holy shit.
So a couple other things, I guess I just wanted to ask you. Is there anybody else that you wanted to touch on from either of the games? But I know, obviously, the Iran game is more fresh in my mind. Anybody else you wanted to say played well, disappointed you? Any other takes personnel-wise?
Sargent, spectacular.
Yeah, I agree.
Carter Vickers, spectacular.
That was the first time I think I had seen him play, or I had probably seen him play in a U.S. like a friendly or a Nations League or something, but he had not stuck with me. I thought he was great too. Yeah,
I thought he was great. Ream in the back, just consistent. Been great the whole tournament. Weah had some confusing plays, but overall I thought he played well. I mean, it's hard to give him a great grade when he literally dribbled the ball out of bounds on 2 separate occasions.
After I was that was like on the end line, right? Like to the right of the box.
Yeah.
And he gets a one-on-one opportunity. I think I was like, yeah, do him. And he just kicks it out of bounds. It's like, oh, well,
out of bounds. So it's hard to give him a great rating, but he did open up a lot of stuff for us.
Definitely didn't hurt us, right?
Yeah. Eunice was kind of all over the place. He had a lot of just kind of like wild energy at the end. And I think that's because he was entirely gassed and just running off adrenaline and fumes. But holy shit, man, that was definitely one of the most stressful sporting games I have ever watched in my entire life. I mean, that last 9 minutes of extra time was just absolutely brutal. They're flopping all over the place, trying to get these refs to give them a chance.
A lifeline.
Yeah, to get this point. And then obviously they would have just sat in the back there for the rest of the game. But I mean, shit, they did have a couple scary opportunities.
Oh, yeah. And credit the officiating crew, right, for not falling for that.
For sure. And they definitely had some serviceable balls from like decent threatening areas late in that game that were concerning. But we got out of there. We did what we were supposed to do. You know, we had a tough group. We held our own with everyone. If we had to take the full 270 minutes into account, we were the better team for the majority of those minutes versus every single opponent we faced. And like we talked about, I would not be shocked to beat the Netherlands. This is not Brazil. This is not France. This is not a team that is just oozing with, obviously there's tiers of players, of course. There's guys in the class of their own. Obviously you have Mbappe, you have Messi, you have Ronaldo, you have these dudes from Brazil, Neymar. This other dude I haven't even seen him yet, but apparently he's been spectacular.
Who, Vinicius?
They just have their whole team just looks like Bad Bunny. Every single it's fucking crazy. But yeah, the Netherlands they're not somebody who, puts a shitload of fear in my heart. And if we have Pulisic out there, yeah, we're going to play him tough.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously there's names on this roster that make your eyes widen, and there's no doubt that the United States is an underdog, but they're going to be far from the biggest underdog in the round of 16.
Absolutely.
And I think they've been like, again, one of the bets that I placed coming into the tournament was the United States to win Group B. Obviously that did not hit, but the fact that they were 5-1, and you look back now, and like you just said, like, they were the better team for the majority of the time there. Obviously couldn't pull out the 3 points against England, which they would have had to get to do it. But outside of England's 6-2 explosion against Iran, like, it was right there. So yeah, I have high hopes. Yeah, I'm getting my hopes up. It's okay. Like, I'm a sports fan every day. I get my hopes up and get let down all the time. I'll be all right. But like, I think this is one, like you said, that we can steal. And depending on how these games turn out today, could be a very winnable, Elite Eight, like quarterfinal match.
An attractive side of the bracket.
For sure.
Absolutely. And, it was cool to go back in history and go to that 0-2 team and see the guys and, get some memories. Because, I mean, even though, like you pointed out, we're not historians, but you started reeling off dudes' names, and DeMarcus Beasley we're talking about young Landon Donovan,
Brian McBride,
Brian McBride, of course. So I mean, Bearhalter was on the team. So it was cool to like see that and know that team made history. And now that we are here and we have an opportunity to make some more history. And to be a part of that is really cool. And just the same thing that happened with the Austin FC season, just feel, grateful and fortunate to be able to watch this transition for American soccer in terms of where we stand in the world kind of setting, and how we're just getting better. And we're going to keep getting better, and the MLS will keep getting better. I'm excited. It's fun, man. I would like to go to a bar to watch the game, but I don't know. At 9 a.m.
I mean, if you guys are down, I'm down, because that is what's going to fuel the record breaking, early morning drinking. Yeah. I think if we're just at a house, we'll be more tempered, I guess. So early odds out, just regular time. Again, these knockout games, so there's no draws anymore, but regular time. Netherlands -110, regular time draw +240, USA to win in regular time +350, Netherlands -225 to advance to the United States +180. So not super long odds, but underdogs to be sure. I guess it's that time. Predictions, USA and the Netherlands. How you feeling? I mean, you did not predict a U.S. win against England. It's the first time you haven't predicted a win for the team we're cheering for in the pod. We let that slide. It's not Austin FC, so we're you're not getting crazy here. But USA, Netherlands. How do you think it turns out?
Well, I mean, we got to see the Pulisic status, but
sure. Let's say he's in.
If he's playing,
yeah,
I think we win this game 2-0.
2-0.
I do. I think we score on him first, obviously, and it's going to open the game up a little bit for us. And our defense should still be able to hold, in my opinion. And I think we'll get a cheap one after that, just because they're going to be obviously pressing,
right,
trying to move
up, counterattack.
So yeah, I'm sitting 2-0.
I'm gonna say we go to extra time 1-1, and we're going to PKs.
Yeah, see, I was gonna say PKs too, but it's just cheap.
All right. Well, we're going to PKs and the United States will advance. And I'll say this: the United States will score first. Netherlands will equalize, and then scoreless all the way to penalties. Couple of things that I did want to touch on. I'm backtracking here. Haji Wright was really disappointing when he came in yesterday. I would like to see Jesus Ferreira at some point. If Sargent is clearly the one to me. We've only seen Sargent and Wright. Sargent is clearly the first option.
Mm-hmm.
And Haji Wright, I don't think was bad in the England match at all. But I didn't think he was very good yesterday. And I just think if you're going to play somebody for 15, 20 minutes, taking Sargent off at the end, just give me Jesus.
I wasn't going to talk about Haji when you asked me about, players who played well or played poorly. He was just fucking confusing.
Right?
It was just weird. It was like he didn't know what was going on, what the stakes were.
Mm-hmm. Like he was just playing pickup. Like he just got subbed in at the park.
Sideline and just throw him in the game. And clearly he's good at, he has skill. But he was baffling. And I don't see how Ferreira can't
do the same thing at least.
That anyone can do that.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him. I mean, obviously the FC Dallas connection plays a little bit of credence there, but sure. I've always been a big fan of his.
Absolutely.
Obviously Austin FC, everything, we don't like Dallas, but
I still respect the player.
Yeah, I love him. I like him a lot. I hope we see him. At least Jordan Morris didn't come in.
Amen to that. I know you're not Twitter man, but you are Reddit man, so you may have seen this. Did you see the Austin FC flag in the stadium? That was great.
That was awesome. That boy was repping hard, bro.
International Verde there.
Yeah, that guy, we got to get him on the show.
I was going to say, we need to find who that is. Get him on the pod.
Someone docks his ass.
I don't know if you remember, but I got extremely confused. The Austin FC tweet yesterday that said, do you see what we see?
Yes.
They were talking about the flag. For those who, obviously, everybody except Ian and Jose weren't with me yesterday, I saw that tweet come through from the team account, and I immediately went to pre-court thinking he had tweeted some smoke, which would have been a dick move for the club to announce a signing in the middle of the U.S. game. But it also just as somebody who missed the flag on the broadcast, it really confused me. And I got excited for a second. So
you were definitely searching around for what's going on?
It was it's a flag in the stadium.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it, I think, for the soccer talk here. We'll talk just 5-10 minutes about some hoopsie because, we've been waiting. We had some NFL talk about a month and a half back with our buddy Thomas. We made our Super Bowl picks, which I guess I'll say this. How are you feeling about the Ravens Super Bowl pick right now? Because if I could change my pick, which is not allowed, but if I could change my pick now, I don't think I'm picking them.
They probably wouldn't be the first team that I would pick if I could change my pick right now, but I don't feel too bad about it.
Sure. Still leading the division.
They've been ahead every single game they've been in.
Mm-hmm.
They have been leading. Mm-hmm. And not just leading deep into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They haven't had, a even serviceable receiving core for most of the season with Bateman in and out.
Mm-hmm. Andrew's hurt.
I mean, getting Roquan is nice for the defense there.
Sure.
So I don't feel terrible. There were much shittier picks I could have made there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, we were both on them, and I think I completely agree. I mean, until the loss, and it was a game they were leading most of the game against the Jaguars this past weekend. The other three losses that they have, Dolphins, Bills, Giants, all playoff teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I can't change my pick that was on the record, but man, the Chiefs look like the Chiefs again.
Yeah.
The Bills, although they have had some hiccups, are
they're
really
stacked.
great.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins are stacked.
Dolphins are so good.
More healthy. So, and of course, 10-1 Eagles. I think both of us said Ravens Eagles. right?
Yep.
The Super Bowl. So
I feel pretty good about it.
We'll have some more American football talk in the coming weeks and months, but let's talk about our favorite sport, basketball, and particularly the NBA. Neither of us, even though we both played college basketball and I coached college basketball for a long while, both of us much rather watch some professional basketball. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. We are at the quarter mark of the NBA season, so I figured we could jump in here 5-10 minutes, talk about any surprises, any disappointments that you have maybe, and then put our picks on the record for NBA title as well.
Christ.
So let's look here. Celtics on top of the East, 17-4, followed by the Bucks and the Cavs. Western Conference, Suns on top, Nuggets following them, and the Pelicans in third. Although I will say this, the West much more condensed than the East. There's a 7-game gap between the 1 seed and the 10 seed in the East. Of course, 1 through 6 get in the playoffs, 7 through 10 into the play-in game. If you're not familiar, Western Conference from 1 to 10, 4 games separating those teams. So razor thin margins right now in the standings, but I guess I'll go ahead and kick it off. My biggest surprise to start the NBA season was the Utah Jazz, who this time last week were in first place in the Western Conference and were picked by many to finish, if not last in the Western Conference, certainly bottom 2 or 3 after trading Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert in the offseason, looking like they were tanking. And I think they will end up going through that tanking process later in the season, but came out. I mean, this team still has a lot of talent on it. Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen. I mean, I saw people saying Laurie Bird, calling him that. And Kelly Olynyk has been playing well. Jared Vanderbilt has been playing well. They've got Colin Sexton off the bench. I mean, they're a deep team. They are a deep collection of NBA caliber players. And Will Hardy, the new coach, Popovich coaching tree, has them playing well. They've lost 5 straight now, so 12-11. I expect them to continue to slide a little bit down those Western Conference standings. But that was my biggest surprise over the first 5-6 weeks of the season, was the success of a team that we thought was going to be completely toothless, and they're not.
Yeah. Anyone who thinks that they're going to stay up there is lying. Look, Markkanen took a huge step forward in the last international tournament there with Finland.
Yeah, he did.
He
in the Euros,
he put himself on the stage there. It looked like his confidence really increased. Obviously things didn't work out for him in Chicago. Gets bounced to Cleveland. An odd fit there with that roster.
Yeah, playing small forward. Although he is playing small forward with the Jazz as well.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, man, he can shoot the shit out of it, And like you said, they do have a bunch of serviceable guys in the NBA. Serviceable NBA players and guys who are going to, at this point, know their role. Know what they're good at. Clarkson, obviously, can score in bunches. Mike Conley, consummate professional. Great point guard, gets everyone where they need to be into their sets, all that good shit. Hardy brought in a bunch of new stuff to the NBA, offensive schemes that people had not seen before.
Yeah.
And again, they will catch up as they always do, as the NBA always does. They eventually catch up to stuff. And once they start learning it, get a little more film on it. Obviously they'll be able to break it down and have a better answer to this new scheme that they've been seeing. In regard to my biggest surprise of the quarter mark thus far, I'm not surprised that the Lakers look terrible.
Yeah.
So I can't throw that in there. I'm trying to think of some more kind of, I'm not the casual fan doesn't know how good SGA is, not known how good SGA is.
Right.
I guess I think it right off the top of my head, it comes to Benedict Mathurin.
I like that. That's a good one.
who has been an awesome surprise. I liked him at Arizona. I didn't know how much more I was going to like him once he got into an offensive kind of system.
Yeah.
Excuse me. How bad the Sixers have looked.
Yeah. I mean, the Pacers, a half game up on the Sixers right now. I was going to say another team that was supposed to be tanking, and Pacers 4 seed in the East right now at 12-8.
Yeah. And I mean, the league has never been more wide open right now. I don't know who outside of the Celtics who are just absolutely loaded at multiple positions. There's not a team that has really stuck out. The Pelicans, when I did my first early, way too early, rankings, and
right.
I thought things would finish. I had the Pelicans finishing second in the West.
Nice. It's a good
and
pick.
Zion being my MVP.
Oh, really?
Because I thought that they would be up there. They're going to play hard in the regular season. They're well coached.
Yep.
They have an interesting kind of hard to match up with lineup. It's hard to match up with J-Val, but then also have the size of Zion and then the length and size of Ingram.
And Herb Jones on the wing as well.
Yep. And Herb kind of does everything you need to do for a team to be successful to win. Benedict Mathurin, my largest surprise so far. SGA, I knew was going to take a big step this year. The demise of the Sixers. And I mean, Kyrie Irving is surprisingly the dumbest human in the NBA.
Surprisingly for 8 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
He's been building to this point, slowly but surely.
He has.
He's a moron, man.
He is so. You know what? And I guess we'll jump into it.
Let's do it.
And even with Jaylen Brown too, where he retweeted the video of the protesters and was like, "Oh, look at this energy."
Yeah, big mood.
It's and then they were like, "Hey, dude, these dudes are anti-Semites."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I didn't have my reading glasses on." And there's no way for me to take anything you say to heart after that's your excuse.
Yeah.
After something that, is that's a big thing. It's a large group of anti-Semitic people joining and chanting places. Yeah. It's fucking crazy for you to be like, "Oh, I didn't have my reading glasses on," and then act like you're an intellectual.
Yeah.
In the next breath.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing I'm learning about Jaylen Brown is that everybody decided that he was smart because he went to Berkeley for 4 months and can speak well. And it turns out that he's just not a super well-educated guy.
No, he's just
or he's just a fucking dickhead. And I don't think that's the case. I just think he's super misguided and I think he's a passionate guy. We've seen him do really good, charitable, productive. Yeah, same with Kyrie. Same with Kyrie.
But it's just it's not smart to just be like, "Well, what if it's not that way?"
Yeah.
that's not a fucking intellectual argument. That's just you not having an answer to something you can't fucking answer. Well, what if it's not like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So those two guys have been utterly disappointing. Just strange. Then also to see other dudes coming out of the woodwork, Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
It's just oh man. I was sometimes I feel stupid on our pod when I get Seba's last name wrong or slip up on AOC there.
Yeah, sure.
Then I'm watching fucking NBA on TNT last night, and Charles Barkley and Shaq are calling shit Gilgeous-Alexander fucking Shea Alexander Gilchrist.
Yeah.
It's you didn't even get the initials in the right order, you idiots. And then they have the audacity to shit all over these guys.
What's fucking hilarious?
You guys are as bad as meteorologists.
You know what made me laugh the hardest about that is that first of all, Chuck got pulled into calling him Gilchrist because Shaq did it first. Yes. And Shaq was 100% just saying Gilchrist because Michael Kidd Gilchrist he saw the hyphenated name, and that's what he said.
Yes.
And I just think that's funny as like somebody who's just he's just, around basketball his whole life. And that's the Freudian slip. I thought it was funny. And their excuse is, it's 1 a.m. and, we're old guys. It's like, all right.
Okay. All you guys have to do for a living is watch basketball games.
Hey, you as somebody who talks a lot while being recorded, you talk that much, you're gonna slip up every once in a while. But
but then you just don't double down and be like, no, that's what I said. Yeah.
Well, that's the Shaq way. We know that for sure. I guess the only other thing I will touch on that was a little eyebrow raising to me, Ian, my preseason, and I think I will stick with my preseason pick, although the Celtics are making me sweat just a little bit. My preseason pick was Clippers over Bucks in the finals. And you scoff at the Clippers, but they have 2 all-star caliber players who have not been playing for multiple weeks. They are 13-9 and 2 games back of the 1 seed. So
they have multiple all-star caliber players who don't play. Okay. It's not they haven't played as it's they don't play. Kawhi didn't even travel last night.
Yeah, last night. He played last week. He played 2 games last week.
Oh, he played last week. Oh, no. He played last week.
You know who else played last week? Anthony Davis, back from another injury, who is in the – you try to throw Kawhi in that category. Anthony Davis is above him because Kawhi, even if he plays less, has accomplished more.
I had to take Kawhi out of that category, yes, because he is now in a category of his own.
Oh, because he's above Anthony Davis.
No, because he plays less than Anthony Davis.
You know who plays less than both of them? Jimmy fucking Butler, who may be on the worst contract in the NBA that nobody knows about because they have to pay him $50 million 3 years from now. So good luck with that, Miami.
That, folks, right there is called deflection.
Well, with that, if you stuck with us through the NBA portion of this show, I think you could tell that we could sit here and talk about this and banter about hoops and the NBA for hours. We're not going to subject that to you here, but we may have maybe a more NBA heavy episode sometime this offseason. So we'll see. We'll leave it at 10-ish minutes for now. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back next week recapping the USA Netherlands game, any other Austin FC or MLS news that breaks between now and then. Probably touch a little bit more on the rest of the World Cup, how the group stages shook out, I should say, the round of 16, what went down there, and hopefully previewing a quarterfinal match for the United States. And maybe we'll talk hoops and football next week as well. We'll see how it goes, but we appreciate you tuning in nonetheless. And if you've got 5 seconds, maybe it takes you 10 seconds, but wherever you're listening to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, if you can rate, review, and subscribe the pod, it helps us grow the channel. Same on our YouTube. If you're listening there, hit the subscribe button, thumbs up on the video. Again, helps us grow the channel, trying to reach as many Austin FC fans as possible. And then do it for us, everybody. No long rambling outro this week for E. I'm Zach. Until next time, vamos, Austin FC. Goodbye.